Yeah, it's a sign of the times. This was an article from a few days ago, right after that idiotic Dobbs decision by the USSC. And women were talking about, or some of them anyway, about sex strike as a protest. Women have been kind of turning away from men, whether they're lesbian or straight, especially the straight women, for a long time. And a lot of this is the reason why so many dudes are so fucking furious that they want to take away, and their handmaidens that are invested in male control, they want to take away women's reproductive rights. I don't think this is going to go very far, especially if they're under 40. It's easier after age 40. But under age 40, it's damn hard for women to walk away from men. I would love to see it. It would sure be poetic justice for these anti-abortion nutcases if the birth rate goes down even more. Wouldn't that be hilarious? So anyway, yeah, there wasn't any big rampage, as I recall. That was kind of Fox News talking points. And, you know, anything, it's always been the anti-abortion nutcases that are the ones that are violent. Eric Rudolph was the most infamous example, but of course that was the Olympic bombing in Atlanta back in the 90s, 96 or something like that. I don't remember when it was. But anyway, and then of course another man was wrongly accused of that. But he was a known anti-abortion nutcase. But there are a lot of other ones. But I would love this if the marriage rates and the birth rates plummet further all across the board. They're already going into the ditch throughout the Western world. And pretty much all worldwide except for Africa. Because women are getting more education. Women are getting more rights. And one of those rights is to say no to men. Absolutely fundamental. Oh, Christ. Why don't we... Where the hell is it? There it is. Anyway, so there was that, and then this made me laugh. Oh, oodles of men don't want to get saddled with child support. Or they want to have things the way that they've been since the 60s. That they can just slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. And oops, now that it's overturned... Roe v. Wade, they're rushing to get vasectomies. Well, men always could pretty much get vasectomies. Single men. I have a nephew who had no trouble as a single man with no kids to get a vasectomy. And I know that women having tubal ligations, single women without kids who were under 35, almost impossible. Still, because of some... patronizing idea that, well, she might change her mind. You know, a woman's just a goddamn thing anyway. They're not smart enough to make their own decisions. And they're afraid of lawsuits. That's basically what that's about. That they decide that they regret it and all this shit. But that's something I wished I'd have had available to me when I was young. But it wasn't. It wasn't really available. You had to have a bunch of kids and be a certain age. And it was like a stupid formula. Your age times number of kids times whatever it was, 20 or 40. It was some stupid damn thing. But anyway, that was never really an option for most single women. So, and they may try to get tubal ligations, and lots of luck doing that. Lots of luck finding doctors that'll do that. But this is funny. These men are supposedly rushing to get vasectomies. And one Florida urologist is known as the vasectomy king, says men are rushing to get the procedure. And in Florida, that's probably, because that's DeSantis country, that's likely that's going to be restrictive. And this guy says he's booked through the end of August, and it's a pretty simple operation compared to a tubal ligation. And then they talk about his colleague echoed that the overturn of Roe v. Wade has resulted in men, specifically under the age of 30, requesting the procedure more than before. The only trouble is women have always harped on this. Why don't men get birth control and all that? But unless you really know the guy, could you really trust men to do it? Or that they're much older, significantly older, say more than 8 or 10 years older, if you're in your 20s, if the woman's in her 20s. Can you really trust them? That's the question. But anyhow, and then there was, well, no, that's not it. I gotta take that off. That's Karen Davis. Oh, here's what I want. Yeah, and I hate it because it's got this dark theme shit. But anyway, a 10-year-old girl in Ohio was forced to travel from from Ohio to Indiana for an abortion. This is going to be seen more and more and more and more and more. That little girls who are hardly physically capable of having kids are going to, and they're almost always molested by a family member or a close family friend. These girls get pregnant. It's almost always caused by that. And they're going to be having to pay for it with their lives. But of course, if you're an anti-abortion nutcase who believes in no exceptions, well, women are supposed to die for it. That's part of your nature. You're selfless. That's part of the selflessness crap that women are taught. The martyr crap. You be prepared to die for this. You know, those who play must pay. And all that. And the fall of Adam. Because a woman led him to fall. Led the fall of man. And all this shit. All this thing with the allegory crap. So women have to suffer. Because they can't. They're too stupid to do anything else. But bear children. And so anyway, Indiana, it's still legal, but it probably won't be for long. 1 week after our post-Roe versus Wade America, a 10-year-old girl was forced to travel from Ohio to Indiana due to the former state's 6-week abortion ban. The ban, which does not allow exceptions for rape, was allowed to take effect shortly after Roe fell last Friday. So, no doubt this little girl was raped by a family member, maybe a dad, maybe a brother, maybe an uncle, maybe a stepdad, who knows? Who the hell knows? Anyway, this doctor told the Columbus Dispatch that on Monday she received a call from a child abuse doctor in Ohio asking if Bernard could see their 10-year-old patient who was 6 weeks and 3 days pregnant and provide the child with an abortion. Because abortion remains legal in Indiana, Bernard was able to help the 10-year-old rape survivor who had to travel across state lines to Indiana to get the procedure. They're always raped, okay? Whether it's, no matter what, they're always raped because they can't consent. So anyway, she did have the abortion. But still, you're going to see a lot more of this as time goes on. So anyway, that is the sign of the times. So we're going to see more and more. We're not going to see a wholesale return of the 1950s. I hate to break it to these nutters. We're not going to see it. It's not going back. The economy can't even really afford to have women out of the damned labor force. And it isn't women's fault that men are messed up. That so many of them are messed up with porn, messed up with entitlement, just messed up. And frankly, women don't want the drama. More and more women don't want the drama of putting up with somebody 24/7 and having a bunch of screaming brats in tow. They just don't want it. They saw how their families lived, and they don't want it. I know I saw it in my family, and I wanted my mom and dad every night at the kitchen table, or in the dining room, every night for years. All they did was argue. All they did was argue in front of the kids. The one thing you're not ever supposed to do, they did, and it got them off. They loved to do that. And so, you know, and then I had my own bedroom, and so I started taking my meal in there, and my mom was furious I was doing that. Well, that's antisocial. You're being antisocial. Well, hell, who the hell wants to listen to arguing all the time? So no, people don't want, women especially, they don't want to replicate that crap. They don't want to go through that crap anymore. And any of it. More and more of them. Oh, most women still will. They'll still do it. And more than a few women support overturning Roe v. Wade because their marriages and their whole background is based on second-class status for women. And that's the only status you have is second class as a wife and mother. And how dare these nasty feminists say that women are actually human beings and could do anything in addition to or instead of that lifestyle. But they're a threat to these women. And anyway, Andrea Dworkin wrote about that in Right-Wing Women, what motivated them. And it's still true today. So, anyway, yeah, the anti-abortion people are really going to find out all this nonsense, this overkill on restrictions. It's going to backfire on them. It's really going to backfire. Hopefully, my sister and I were talking about this yesterday. My sister is almost 86 years old. And we talked about this thing. Hopefully, people remember long enough into the election that they vote Republicans out instead of falling for the manipulation by corporations and so forth, and billionaires to manipulate the economy on inflation in order to get the results they want in Congress. See if the people are smart enough to wake up and see what's being done to them. Anyway, that's it.